That's right, I am done. I am quitting Final Fantasy XIV. I know, it's very sad. Did I beat it? No, but I got to Shadowbringers, and the more I was playing through Shadowbringers, I just realized that my opinion on this game is just not going to change. I've been told since A Realm Reborn that the good part of the game is just around the corner, and there were, admittedly, a lot of really high highs in this game. I actually really like Heavensward. In my opinion, the patch content leading up to Heavensward and then Heavensward is absolutely worth it. That's a really fun part, really fun chunk of this game. But everything else has just been a pretty big disappointment for me. Now, I understand that people absolutely love this game. People that are still watching videos about this game in 2023 are obviously diehard fans of this game, or else you wouldn't be playing it and watching videos about it. So, just so you know, I'm not here to come convince you to uninstall 14 and stop playing it. That's not my objective here. I know people love this game. I know that they love so many different things about this game. There are plenty of reasons to play Final Fantasy XIV. None of those reasons are just enough for me to continue playing this game, however. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. My experience playing this game for 400 hours and deciding that, hey, it's not for me. I gave it a shot, but I don't think that I enjoyed this game very much. And if any of this feels like a personal attack on you, if this is upsetting to you, I'm giving you the opportunity right now. I'm giving you the off-ramp. You don't have to watch this video. I'm going to be sharing my experience, my honest thoughts about the game, because that's what I've been doing for the past 10 months, is sharing with you my experience playing this game. Now, I'm totally aware of how much people love this game and this story. I'm not implying that you should not play this game, but let's be real. I am implying, though, that, hey, if you've been playing this game for 10 years and you don't really play a lot of other games and you think this is the best story ever told in all of media and that this is a perfect game, I really do think you probably maybe should try playing a few other games. Now, personally, I don't care. You do whatever you want. You can continue to play this game till the end of time. That's okay, but I'm just being real with you, like, hey, I think that there's a lot of games that tell a lot better stories than Final Fantasy XIV, that are a lot more fun than Final Fantasy XIV, and I think that if you're not playing other games because you just have sunk so much time and investment into this game, I do think you probably would have a pretty good time putting it down for a while and trying to play something else. But again, that's, whatever. You can play this game forever. It's okay. I don't care. Everyone is allowed to do whatever they want with their time. All right, I think I've given enough caveats here. Let's get into it. Let me start off by acknowledging, I think, some of the things that Final Fantasy XIV does do better than, like, almost all other games. Like, the reasons why I think people love this game and why I could see people continue to play it. And number one, that's definitely the community, but I'm sure you guys already know that. This game has a really tight-knit community. If you're looking for people to play with, to go online and find a community, people to go through, to quest with, and just kind of hang out online with, like, there's so many people that are doing that on Twitch, Discords. This game has so much of that, and this game absolutely tries to have an air of positivity around it and tries to stifle toxic behaviors that other MMOs are associated with. And number two, I think the world building in this game, while you'll see that this is something that I'm absolutely not into, it is definitely one of the big selling points of this game. And now before you say, oh, you just don't like world building, I absolutely love world building. I've listened to probably 50 hours of Elder Scrolls lore videos, cyberpunk videos. I've read the Witcher books. I've even read the Mass Effect books. They're really good, actually. I absolutely love world building, but I feel like the world building in Final Fantasy XIV gets in the way of the characters and the character development. It puts world building almost first and foremost. And this isn't maybe necessarily a bad thing. Like, I'm saying this is a good thing. This is one of the things that people love about this game. And when you're bought into a world, you love a game, you love the universe that it's in, this isn't a slog. This isn't like, something to complain about. This is something that makes you happy. When you go do these fetch quests for these beast tribes so that you can come together with the power of friendship and overcome the enemy, that stuff is can legitimately be enjoyable. I can see that. But I think at the end of the day, I can't tell you exactly why. I just feel like I'm not bought into this world. I'm not bought into this game in the ways that others obviously are. I think I have some reasons for that, and we'll get there in just a second. But I would say the number 3 reason to play this game is that the quality of life in this game is absolutely great. If you're coming from other MMOs like World of Warcraft, you're just going to have a lot of things in this game that are time savers. You don't have to create alts. You can fast travel almost anywhere. There's just a lot of things in this game that make it very easy to play. For a lot of people, those things are really desirable, but that's really not the angle of how I came upon this game. I didn't play World of Warcraft before. So for me, these quality of life features, they're not as big of a deal for me as they maybe are for other people. So let's talk a little bit about why I think maybe I wasn't so bought into this game. And I've already actually made some videos and mentioned this before, but I really think a big part of it is the fact that the main character, who you are, the Warrior of Light, feels very much like a passive observer to everything that's going on. Now, of course, silent protagonists can be absolutely great. I mean, if you think about it, Skyrim, you're a silent protagonist, but your character still felt unique because you were able to decide what you were doing in that game, in the sense of you can go join a guild, you can go become a vampire, you can decide who lives, who dies. There's all of these things that make your character feel very unique and your own. Whereas in Final Fantasy XIV, there's like this set story that you go through. There's not a lot of choice that you have to make. Occasionally you can choose different dialogue, but it doesn't ever change anything in the game. There's no outcomes that change because of any kind of choices that you make. So you end up getting this weird position where you're a silent protagonist, and in some ways that can give you the freedom to maybe roleplay, but the game itself doesn't really give you any type of freedom to roleplay. You're just playing through these stories where your character doesn't have any kind of pronounced personality or isn't really a part of these stories personally in any kind of way. At least it doesn't feel like that, because you never really get to see your character talking, interacting, having any kind of will, having any kind of opinion, or deciding anything. Now, people have said, oh, it gets better, this gets better the further on when you play the game. And I mean, in my opinion, it absolutely has not gotten better. There's a few more dialogue options. This has not changed, and I really don't foresee it changing through Shadowbringers or into Endwalker. This is just how the game is. And again, caveat, of course, some people are going to be absolutely okay with this, but for me, I feel like this has been the barrier for me to actually care about this world, because I don't have any kind of personal investment in it. You can get a bit of that through all of the other characters. It's an ensemble cast. But I would say early on in A Realm Reborn, the game does not do a very good job at fleshing out any of the Scions. I remember when there was the big reveal of Thancred and Laha Brea, I was like, who was that guy again? And people in chat said the same thing. It was like, oh yeah, there's that guy, and then even when Ida becomes Lys, you're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I guess that was happening. There's a lot of big moments, I feel like, that are supposed to feel impactful to you, like the game's telling you, like the characters in the game are like, oh wow, this big moment's happening. But for me as the player, I'm like, I don't know why I should really care too much about any of this stuff. And I think this is absolutely the game's failure to get me invested. Now, I'm sure I'll have plenty of people that will try to explain to me that I didn't do this or that, I didn't read this or do that side quest. I don't know what you're talking about. I played 400 hours of this game, and there was not enough character development. All of the Scions felt like co-workers. There's been a few story arcs with them. I think Alfie had a pretty decent story arc. Tartaru had an interesting little story arc, but I feel like a lot of them, I don't really know who they are. I don't know their internal thoughts and personalities. I don't know their motivations. I do not think the game does a very good job at showing this to the player, which there are absolutely no excuses for. I mean, this is why I'm complaining about the world building. I would have enjoyed more of the Scions, more of the main cast getting more fleshed out, more than a bunch of fetch quests for a bunch of beast tribes that are not going to matter after a few hours of passing through. So you know what? Take it or leave it. I'm absolutely sure that the comments are going to be full of people arguing with me that, hey, that's wrong, and you just didn't do this or that. All right, great. But this is my opinion, guys. I don't think the game does a very good job at fleshing out the characters, giving your character a voice, and getting you invested in this world. One thing that I've noticed in this game is that, romance is, absolutely just, taken out of this game. All of the main characters in this game, none of them are married or have a boyfriend or like even seem to be attracted to anybody. I remember Asmongold one time saying that that's probably because the main character, us, the player, could maybe role play in their head that they're like dating one of the scions or something. And I mean, I don't know what to tell you. A game does not have to have a romantic interest for it to be good. Not every story needs to be a love story. Though in previous Final Fantasies, there have been a lot of them that do have love stories in them. And while I think, yeah, a game doesn't need to have a love story, but when you're with characters for like over a year and this just seems to be completely absent to any type of conversation or motivation with any of the characters, it just takes like a level of humanity out of the game for me. I mean, I don't need any like Baldur's Gate 3 like bare sex scenes. That's not what I'm talking about. But love is a very human emotion. It motivates people to do things, to transform, to be better people, or it can prompt people to be jealous or try and get revenge. There's just so much emotion there that I feel like this game is completely void of. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying the scions, the people around you and your character, I don't feel like they're real people. I feel like that's part of it. In this game, it almost feels like you're the manager and everyone's keeping their personal life away from you unless they get sick and then they have to call out for a few days or something. And before you mention Edda and her boyfriend's head who she creepily carries around, this does not prove my argument wrong. This is the exception to the rule. This is why characters like this stand out so much, because there's just so little love in this game, which is it's kind of weird. Another reason why I'm just done with this game is that the gameplay is just absolutely mind-numbingly boring. Yes, I'm aware it gets better, it gets harder. The game is training you and teaching you so that eventually at the end it gets way more difficult. Okay, great. But you know what? I played 400 hours. I'm trained. I can do it. If I really wish the game was more difficult. It shouldn't take 500 hours for the game to start getting to parts that are challenging. It shouldn't take more than like 10, 15 hours. Like this game is just, it's so easy. As a tank, you just run in and you just do an AoE. And you just go away from the attacks. You dodge the attacks. It's very easy to do. The only time I die in this game is when I haven't leveled up my sword or armor, so I'm not doing enough damage or I'm taking too much damage, and then yeah, I'll die. And then I just go buy a new sword and then everything's fine again. Which is another thing, like the gearing. I have gone back and played Classic WoW over the past few months, and I'm understanding a bit of how Final Fantasy XIV lacks with the gear. Nothing that you get gear-wise changes anything with your character other than just the numbers. The numbers go up when you get a better sword. Whereas in WoW, I'll find this new mace and I have to go train my mace skills. And then it has a proc where it'll do some electricity damage. And my character feels special. It feels cool when I find this new item that's going to change the gameplay, even if it's just slightly. There's just nothing like that in Final Fantasy XIV. Gear doesn't matter other than it just ups your numbers, and that's just about it. And I know people have already talked about this a lot, and some people don't care. But when you are a paladin, you're just a paladin. There's no different ways to roll your paladin. And I already know where this argument goes. Hey, in World of Warcraft, there's only one or two ways that you can play any character anyways. Everyone just goes online, finds the build that everyone else is using, and there's no real choice there. And I don't know why people think that this is a good argument. I mean, because this can be fixed. Final Fantasy doesn't have to do that. They could make a skill tree that is good enough so that multiple builds are viable. And even if there's just two builds that are viable, it still just makes you more invested in your character when you're choosing which one you're going to build into. And sure, you can choose which job you're going to do, so there's a bit of customization there. That's fine. I get it. If you want to play a different type of tank, you can just be a warrior. So I get that. It doesn't bother me that much, but I do miss just leveling up, rolling my character, and feeling unique in the world. I think that's something that Final Fantasy XIV is lacking. The only kind of unique and customization there is with your character is just pure cosmetic, pure glamour. Another really big plot point that rubbed me the wrong way was when they brought the Sultana back from the dead. I've heard people defend this, but for me, it really felt like sloppy writing. It felt like they kind of undid it and undid this whole storyline and story arc to just kind of go into a different direction. Now, I know people are going to argue with me about that, and use that as evidence of you just didn't understand and see all these subtle things. And all right, man, I don't know. It seemed like that was a much bigger deal than in the end it really was, you know? I feel like Raban's arc and story just kind of petered out, and it really just cheapened a lot of the big moments for me after that. You know, when Gosetsu died, I jokingly said, oh yeah, no, it's cool. We'll see him again. He's fine. And yeah, of course he was. I think I even jokingly said at one point, like, oh, what are they going to do now? Like, bring back Gaius? And they literally brought back Gaius. So, again, I know this is just where people are going to have a difference of opinion, but for me, it just made me take this game a little bit less serious when they just kept bringing people back from the dead. When you bring characters back to life, it makes me feel like you aren't confident in your narrative. It makes me question whether or not that decision was based out of fear that you're going to upset people because maybe that was somebody's favorite character. It just overall makes me take the story a little less seriously. So I do want to address that my experience through Final Fantasy XIV is absolutely, totally unique. I streamed this game for the 400 hours I played it. I was on Twitch streaming it with people, and that absolutely affected how I played the game. People definitely overhyped this game and the story for me. That's a huge problem, and I think that's maybe some of the benefit of me talking about it. Maybe that will lead people to stop trying to overhype this game, because that did absolutely affect my experience. I was putting this game at a really high bar, comparing it to all of the other Final Fantasies that I played and loved, and it just never really lived up to those other experiences for me. And there's plenty of reasons for that. Like I said, it's because I was streaming. Also, I'm playing the game 10 years later. I can imagine if I played this game when it first came out, that all of the dialogue, because that's another thing, there's just so much dialogue in this game. I don't think that would have bothered me as much if I didn't have all of the games that I've played over the past 5 years to compare it to. And that it's just a reality of playing a game that's 10 years old in 2023. I was absolutely reminded of this when I went and played the DLC for Phantom Liberty. The first-person FMVs and the voice acting was just, it's so good. I feel like this is the future of games. This stuff really was exciting me. And then going back to just these stiff characters, just giving me paragraphs and paragraphs of text, it's just not doing it for me like it used to. And then there's just the reality of me just plowing through 10 years of content in 10 months. I mean, I thought I was taking my time. I've been playing it for 10 months, right? It's not like I was rushing through any of it, but I could definitely see that if I played this game in smaller chunks, broken up over time, I probably wouldn't get so just bogged down with it. But I guess I really did want to enjoy this game. The Final Fantasy games were really special games for me when I was in junior high and high school, all of the PlayStation era games. I remember feeling at the time that these stories were some of the best stories that I've ever heard. And I guess I was just hoping that Final Fantasy XIV could scratch that itch, make me feel some of those feelings that the other entries made me feel. And nothing's ever really going to live up to the nostalgia of the games you played when you were younger. And I get that. Everyone's at a different place in their life. And for some people, Final Fantasy XIV can really scratch an itch that, wherever they're at in their life, this game can be something you can go back to. It can be comforting. And you can enjoy it in a way that I just feel like right now for me, it just doesn't do it. It just doesn't do it for me. And you know what? That's okay. So as I plan to move on from this game, I do feel like I know myself a little bit better now about the types of games that I like and don't like. I didn't know whether or not I was going to like this game or not, so I had to try it to see if I did. Whenever I would give criticisms about this game in the past, people would be like, well, why are you playing it if you don't like it? That's such a stupid thing to say. I mean, of course, I don't know if I'm going to like it until I play it. And then when I'm playing it, you don't know, okay, like, am I going to maybe like it if I continue playing it? You want to give things a fair shot. And I feel like I did learn a lot. I don't think that I really enjoy MMOs as much as I enjoy single-player story games. I feel like I can get more immersed in a single-player game where I don't have people running around and jumping around and distracting me. So from now on, I'm obviously not going to be documenting my Final Fantasy XIV journey because that's come to an end. I probably still will make a few videos, at least maybe referencing it, comparing it, or just talking about some things as they come up. So thank you guys so much for those of you that stuck around, that watched me here on YouTube and on Twitch. It's been a hell of a ride, and I absolutely admit I've enjoyed a lot of it. It's not like I was faking the fun that I was having. I had a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, it's just not for me. I also did want to take this moment to just acknowledge some of the people that have been with me there on Twitch, playing the game with me, putting up with me complaining about their favorite game over the past 10 months. Thank you guys so much for just hanging out, sticking around, and playing this game with me. You really did make me feel welcome, and just thank you so much for that. While part of this community has an absolutely horrible reputation, you guys are not part of that. I'm talking about Teslo, DeJungle, Burchard, Dot, Shemek, Popcorn, Bree, Fizzy, Cade, even you, Horace. Selly Bean, thank you so much for taking me through the coils. And I know I'm forgetting people, Flash Fox. There's a whole bunch of you guys. You know, thank you guys so much for hanging out. It really did mean a lot to me. This experience is something I will always look back on fondly. So if you've only been watching my videos to watch my journey through Final Fantasy XIV, well, again, thank you guys so much for doing that. It is pretty much over as of now. I don't foresee myself coming back to this game anytime soon. So if you're going to be unsubscribing now, I absolutely totally understand. No hard feelings. But for those of you that want to stick around, I'm still going to be making videos. I'm actually at the end of Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy XII, so I wanted to make some kind of reviews and some videos about my thoughts of those games. And I absolutely loved Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm excited for Rebirth. I'll be playing that and making videos about that in the future. But I also just felt like I should probably focus on playing and making some videos about games that I know that I really enjoy. I really love like Cyberpunk and The Witcher, CD Projekt Red games, and a lot of Bethesda games as well. So I'm probably going to be making some videos about those, and I'll probably go back and revisit some of my favorite Final Fantasy games as well. So if you're still here in the next video, then hey, I'll see you guys then. But if not, then hey, this is goodbye. Hope you have a good life. I appreciate you, and enjoy Final Fantasy XIV. It's a lot of fun. I get it. Just not for me. Okay, bye.